Well, hey, howdy, hi. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch. This over here is my teaching assistant, Andy, and today is Sunday, and on my channel that means it is Cryptid Countdown, and today we're going to be talking about the cryptids of Texas. If you're new to my channel or are not interested in cryptids, I do have two other series that I do on my channel. On Mondays, I talk about history, and on Tuesdays, I talk about true crime. Coming up this week, tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the Oakville Blobs for history. And then on Tuesday, I will be talking about the Great Salad Oil Swindle. And I totally lied to everybody when I said that last week I would post videos, and then my grandparents came to town, and I didn't have the time I thought I was going to, which is fine because my grandparents are some of my favorite people. But if you're curious as to what we did, because Andy's invited to everything, I'll put some pictures on the screen, or you can go and follow Andy on Instagram because he posted some pictures about our cool vacation, and he will continue to because I took too many pictures. But yeah, I thought I was gonna have more time, but I didn't. I was enjoying hanging out with my grandparents too much. They're some of my favorite humans. So I'm back, and I have many plans for coming up, so I likely will not disappear again. Do not hold me to that. You either. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into talking about the cryptids of Texas. So the first one that I want to talk about is Goatman, and I'm sure that many of you have already heard this tale, or at least part of it, but there was a lot that I didn't know myself before researching. I thought that this was more paranormal or spiritual, but not necessarily. Though I'm not sure what I would totally classify this legend as, so let me know where you kind of land on the real to ghost scale. So this creature is actually considered by some to be two different creatures, and I'll tell you the other version towards the end of the video. But to start this story, we have to go back to 1930 in Denton, Texas, near Old Alton Bridge. Now, a man named Oscar Washburn lived with his family just north of the bridge. He was a very successful goat farmer known for his goat milk, cheese, and meat. He got so popular, he started advertising his business by placing signs south of the bridge stating, "This way to the Goat Man." He thought it was just a clever sign advertising his business, but there were folks in town that did not take kindly to his advertising. Specifically, a KKK chapter that was local to Denton. Now, Oscar, being a black man, was already a crime in the KKK's eyes, but having dared to be an entrepreneur, and a successful one at that, was seen as unforgivable. So in 1937 or 1938, the KKK rounded up their members and headed for Oscar's farm. He was kidnapped and dragged to the very bridge that he advertised on and hung over the side. However, when the members made their way down the embankment to see their handiwork, the noose was empty and there was no sign of Oscar. Now this enraged the KKK members as they thought it meant that Oscar had somehow escaped and fled. Not wanting to give up, the members went to Oscar's family farm and burned it down, killing his wife and children who were home asleep. Now this was meant to draw Oscar out, but there was still no sign of him. Now, the legend gets a little bit weird from here, as it said that in the process of being hanged, Oscar turned into a half-man, half-goat spirit who began to haunt the bridge. The legend has also changed over the years. Originally, it said that if you drove onto the bridge, stopped halfway, and honked your horn 3 times, the Goatman would appear. Now that you can no longer drive on the bridge, the legend says that knocking 3 times can summon the Goatman. There's also apparently a stipulation to being able to see the Goatman though. Those who have descended from members of the KKK, meaning you share the same blood, those people are the only ones who see the Goatman or are attacked to some degree. There has also been some discourse online though from a Reddit user. I was unable to find the username as all my sources censored the name for some reason, but that user was saying that he created the hype around the bridge and that it wasn't a real story. Some credit may be given to this source, as there is no record of a goat farmer by the name Oscar Washburn that was alive during that time frame. That's not to say definitively that he did not or could not exist. There are plenty of records that go unkept, and if he was lynched, any evidence of his life could have been erased. I also could not find any fires at farms in Denton at that time. Again, that is not to say that it didn't happen. Records could be lost or just were never recorded. Others claim that the Goatman is tied to a satanic cult or religion, making him a demon rather than a cryptid. Next up, we have the Ozark Howler. Now, unsurprisingly, this cryptid is native to the Ozarks. This does mean that Texas is not the only state it calls home, but there are some mentions of this creature in Texas. being described as around the size of a bear or a big cat, very rotund, having thick dark brown or black hair on its body, and having large horns on its head. Though many have not seen the creature, plenty have heard it, the sounds of its cries being described as a mix of a wolf's howl and an elk's bugle. Now, there are many theories on what this creature is, where it came from, or why it might exist, but as usual, there is not one definitive answer. Some people believe it has roots in Native American mythology, noting the creature as being a bearer of warning if there was danger nearby tribal homes. There are theories that it is some manifestation of the grief and fear that pioneers had while staying in the area, while others believe it is legend thanks to the Irish or Welsh settlers in the area who brought their own mythologies and stories when they came to the States. Now, the first noted sightings were not until the 1950s. Other sightings or encounters being passed down through oral tellings to family and friend. We don't find many sightings again until the 1990s, where the legend became more popular when a book called Cryptozoology, Science and Speculation by Chad Arment was published. Now, it contained a chapter on the Ozark Howler. Then again in 2015, we see a resurgence of stories popping up after a television station in Arkansas aired a story claiming they received a picture of the creature from one of their viewers. As I said, there are mentions of similar creatures in two separate mythologies, but in wildly different ways and to different depths. For the Native Americans, they have told tales of saber-toothed tigers that still roam the mountains, being omens of death for those who do not heed their calls of warning. That's about it, though. Like a lot of other legends, most people feel it's best to respect the creature and to not speak on any sightings or encounters, as to not draw the creature's attention to themselves or family. Now, the Scottish, Welsh, and Irish, though, have spoken more in depth about the creature that may have traveled with them when they immigrated to the US. This creature is known by many names that I will likely mispronounce, please forgive me. Bean Side, Ku Side, or Kyun An? In these iterations, the creature is considered a hound the size of a juvenile bull, but with the distinct look of a wolf. These creatures were known to be silent hunters, only occasionally letting out 3 barks or howls. When you heard the howls, you had to get to safety before it let out the last bark, otherwise you'd be paralyzed with fear that led to sudden death. Next, we have a legend and creature that originated in Mexico, where legend is still told, but we also see many mentioned in Texas as well, and that is the lechuza. While we do not know where in Mexico the story began, there are only a few towns in Texas that have reported this creepy creature. An undetermined amount of years ago, there lived a young woman thought to be a witch. There was no proof against her, but that never mattered much, but she kept to herself. One day, a young boy disappeared without a trace, and the woman was accused of using witchcraft and causing the boy's disappearance. Enraged, the young woman turned to the devil. She struck a deal with him where she asked that upon her death she be turned into a shape-shifting owl. She was put to death not long after the accusation, and to her joy, her desire was granted. Unlike a lot of similar tales, there is no set victim type. One would assume that she might be seeking revenge on people similar to who killed her, but it is most reported that she goes after drunkards and children. The first reports in Texas were in Robstown, but as far as I could find, there was no attacks, just concerned residents who saw a massive owl with an alarmingly human face. Most people have a hard time believing drunks making statements that they were attacked by an owl woman, so there's not many reports that can be found that were written down, and this is more of an oral legend. So the supposed attacks on children can be seen as a nod to its original tale, the accusation that got the young witch killed, or it could simply be an easy way for parents to spook unruly children into behaving. Either way, maybe watch the trees if you ever happen to be in Texas. And of course, I must talk about the skunk ape. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. Every state has a Bigfoot, and Texas is no different. Their version of Bigfoot is known as the skunk ape, being described as the standard bipedal, hairy, larger than a human, ape-like creature. There are a few important distinctions between these creature and other Bigfoots. The smell, for one thing. It gives off a skunk-like odor, which earned it the name skunk ape. The other difference is its eyes. It's been said to have glowing red eyes, which is unique as most primates do not have the tapetum lucidum, which is the layer of the eye that reflects light and gives it that red glow. Now, this is probably one of the most disputed cryptids I've read about, as stories and pictures are few and far between, but are constantly disputed as bears or the standard hoax. And that's about all the information that I could find about this one, so if you do have anything to add, please let me know in the comments, and I will also accept anecdotes as well. Next is the black-eyed children, and this one is a little bit spooky because there's a lot of unknowns. What is known is that the first mention of these children came about during 1996. Most people claiming to have encountered small children with solid black eyes. They would knock on car windows or show up at people's houses, desperate to get inside. Those who encountered the children would say the children refused to make eye contact, and just their creepy pet presence made people feel an incredible sense of dread. It is not known, however, what they want or why they're doing what they're doing. There have been no reports of them physically attacking anyone, just creepily knocking and trying to get inside your car or house. The only anecdote that was more than a minute long of an encounter is a little bit spooky, but that story goes that an elderly couple was at home when they heard sharp knocks at the front door. They opened the door to see two children, a boy and a girl. Now the children asked to come inside and wait for their parents, who were on their way to pick them up. Hesitantly, the couple agreed, but noted it was strange that the parents would be coming to their house. So the foursome sat in an awkward silence for a few minutes before the children asked to use the bathroom, so the lady walked to the hallway where she noticed their eyes. Alarmed, she went back to her husband to tell them about the weird all-black eyes, only to discover her husband having a very heavy nosebleed. The couple was even more alarmed when the power went out. Wanting the children out of their home, the couple went to the bathroom and told the children to leave. As they walked the children out, they saw two men at the end of the drive, waiting for the children. The one raised her hand as an acknowledgement of their presence, but the men ignored her and just hurried the children along. Shortly after their departure, the power came back on, but that was not the last of the strange occurrences. 3 of the couple's 4 cats went missing, and the 4th was found dead. The man also continued to experience horrible nosebleeds, leading him to go to a doctor, where he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of skin cancer. Now again, this is the only story that I could find that has a truly negative encounter with the children, so do with that information what you will. This does leave many people to worry about the motives or end goals of the children. Some demonologists have weighed in, claiming the children to be demonic entities, and that allowing them into your space means you're allowing the devil into your life. Other people believe that they're aliens that got lost and are searching for a way home. And this is another one that is just up to you to choose what you believe. Next up is the ivory-billed woodpecker, which I think I referenced this in either last Cryptid Countdown or the one before that, about how I talked about it before. I didn't. I just write scripts and then don't read them in the order that I think I'm going to. So, for anybody confused, the ivory-billed woodpecker. So this particular one actually had made me look up the definition of cryptid because I was confused as to how a woodpecker that is documented to have 100% exist could be a cryptid. So the short answer is that a cryptid is a creature that you have no proof that it does or does not exist. This means that the cryptid label can and does apply to animals that have been labeled extinct but have had multiple noted sightings. Some of these cryptids have actually been found to not be extinct, which is why many people still hold out hope they're around. Some of the examples being the coelacanth, Wallace's giant bee, terror skink, or the thylacine. I will make a point to do a separate video on those animals that we thought were extinct but aren't in the future. Point being, this was a real animal that did exist, but has been considered extinct since 1944, when the final universally accepted sighting occurred. There aren't any magical properties of this cryptid, it is literally just a bird. There have been numerous sightings and recordings in the 90s and early 2000s, so many people are actively searching to prove it never went extinct. Given that it is a bird and looks like other types of woodpeckers, there is some issue on identification as well as locating where they may be not residing. The original cause of extinction was heavy logging, displacing them, or harming them. Overall, it did exist, might still exist, and is a bird that made it to cryptid status. Next up is the Wampus cat. This is another one that is not exclusive to Texas, but they have a special appreciation for it. Now, this creature has a long history of being mentioned in Cherokee folklore. It is a little bit more supernatural than the other cryptids I've mentioned, being said to emit a spine-chilling scream, possess incredible speed, agility, and strength, and some legends mention an ability to shapeshift or turn invisible. For a physical description, the creature is cat-like, very large, it has dark, matted fur, and a long, sinuous tail. Although it is occasionally described as half cat, half dog, with 6 legs instead of 4. Most sightings have been in the denser part of wooded areas, and witnesses say that you feel an overwhelming sense of dread as if you're being hunted before you see the creature. There's not really much else in the legends, it's become more of a way for parents to get their children to behave than anything else. Next up is the Houston Batman. Now this cryptid is very similar to Mothman in the way that he is depicted and described. The first witnesses ever likened him to a moth or a bug rather than a bat. The original sighting saw him perched in a tree after flying out of the light of a lamp. They did say that he had bat-like wings for his initial encounter, though he may have received the Batman moniker for his actions rather than appearance. On a dark night, a woman was walking home when a man lunged at her from the shadows and knocked her down. At that same time, two off-duty officers walked out of a bar to see a creature run after the man. Going back a couple of weeks before the first sighting, there were reports of a woman being grabbed out of her car by a man, but the man fled and was pursued by some creature, though there was not a big deal made of the attack. After the initial sighting and reports, there were very few follow-up reports, and it kind of seemed like the latest reports were from the 1990s with no mention since. Next is the Lake Worth monster. Now, if you remember from the beginning of this video where I said I would talk about Goatman again, probably not, that was a long time ago, but here we are. Being described as a satyr-like creature, it is the epitome of a goat man. Though it was originally called a fishy man goat, who purportedly was covered in scales along with fur, there have only been a couple of sightings and reports. The original being the creature leapt from a tree near the water, startling the witnesses. The next report about a creature that scratched a man's car, the car having a 1.5 foot long scratch as proof. There was also a report that the creature was throwing tires at bystanders, though this one was proven to be a couple of young men rolling tires down a hill, just happened to bounce up and land too close to the witnesses. And again, that's about all there is to this legend, and very few sightings since the first few. And lastly, let us talk about the Bear King of Marble Falls. Now, there is but one single legend about this creature. Some believing that to be not because the creature was killed or simply doesn't exist, rather because people in the area are too terrified to speak about their encounters. Whatever the reason, there are no follow-up stories. Let me tell you the only tale of the Bear King of Marble Falls that exists. There was once a village where lived a farming family. The family was not of note, aside from their lovely daughter, Raimi. Now, Raimi was more than just lovely, she was the talk of the town, a certified beauty. She was not only pretty, but a hard worker. The day of the incident, she was out tending to the sheep while her mother worked inside. It was while inside that her mother heard the blood-curdling scream coming from outside. Fearing for her daughter's safety, she ran outside. The mother found nothing, no sign of Raimi. The mother quickly ran to get help, and a group was formed to find the missing girl. The search found nothing unusual and nothing trackable. No blood, no tracks, no ripped clothing. Now to jump back before she screamed. Raimi had been tending to the sheep when a large black bear jumped from the bushes, but noticing Raimi, it fled from the area. Immediately after the bear jumped another creature out of the bushes. This one was a little bit different, however. It had 4 legs, but stood on just 2 and seemed more human-like than a bear, but more bear-like than a human. The creature grabbed Raimi and ran off with her, at which point Raimi screamed. The creature carried her for miles until it reached its cave. The bear creature then dropped Raimi on the floor and moved to another section of the cave. Thinking this was her only chance at escape, Raimi ran towards the cave entrance, but the bear creature was quicker and pulled her back, and she hit her head. At this point, Raimi thought she was as good as dead and just sat down to wait. The bear creature did not hurt her further, though, and actually lay down to sleep. Raimi waited for hours to make sure the bear would not wake before carefully making her way out of the cave. She then wandered the forest for days trying to find her way home. Luckily, a hunter eventually found her and was able to take her home to her mother. It was only a short time for her to recover enough to tell everyone what she had gone through. Terrified and enraged, a group was once more formed to hunt the creature. After tireless searching, the group managed to find the bear creature and raised their weapons to fire, but they hesitated when they saw how human it appeared. Hesitation did not last, however. As soon as the creature made to attack them, the group fired, killing it. This is the one and only account of the Bear King, and no proof of the attacks or creature was kept, so the world may never know what it is, or if it's still roaming the woods. And that is all the cryptids of Texas that I could find for you. I feel like my cryptid videos run the longest. There's just so many to talk about, and it's just so easy to find all the information on them, so these videos end up being the longest. I also, like, halfway through got concerned that I did already talk about this, so I might have and just labeled the video wrong. I don't think so, though. We're gonna find out. I checked like 4 times and I didn't see it, so. But I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and if I missed any cryptids or if I missed any information, please let me know down below. I love cryptids. I think this is so interesting. I just got a cryptid creatures field research guide, which I'm super excited to look into. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to actually go into the wild. Really scary, and record a cryptid video because I live in Colorado, and so I'll be talking about the cryptids of Colorado in the wilds of Colorado. So yeah, you have that to look forward to. You're welcome. But if you liked today's video, if you want to hit that thumbs up button, and if you want to see more of us, then you can check out Andy's Instagram or possibly subscribe. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.